This video is 10 Easter eggs, references, and callbacks you may have missed in the second episode of Season 7, Stormborn, but you probably didn't miss because you're awesome. Number 1. Euron's crew. You may have been so enraptured by the sea battle and Euron that you didn't pay too much attention to his crew. Euron's ship is called the Silence for good reason. He rips out the tongues of his crew, making them mutes. This is for numerous reasons, one being Euron is just super crazy, but also cuts down on mutinies. You can't talk, you can't mutiny, sorta. So at the end of episode 2, we see this in action. Some of Euron's crew cutting out the tongues of defeated enemies that will then become part of his crew to replace the men he lost in the battle. Just another ordinary day in the life of batshit crazy Euron. Number 2. Yurtarian. Speaking of that lovable Euron, he was quite impressive during that naval battle. He took quite a few hits and he just kept on going. His fighting, taking those blows and not slowing down, and his acts were definitely nods to his brother Victarion, who we won't be seeing in the show. It felt like the showrunner's way of saying, yeah, you're not getting Victarion. So we'll give you this awesome hybrid of Euron and Victarion. And I appreciated it. Number 3. That's Not You. Arya was finally reunited with her direwolf after way too many seasons, but in the end, Nymeria chose to go off with her own pack and not follow Arya to Winterfell, and Arya responded like this. That's not you. That line is actually a callback to Season 1 when Ned is talking to Arya about how she'll grow up and she'll have a castle and she'll have sons that will become lords and knights, and she responds in a similar way.
And your sons shall be knights and princes and lords.
No. That's not me.
Repeating this line shows that Arya understands that just like she couldn't be some lord's wife, that Nymeria too can't be domesticated. Number 4. A Song of Ice and Fire. The showrunners actually threw in a pretty clever nod this episode. So when Eberros is talking about writing a book about the wars that were fought after King Robert I died, Sam doesn't seem too impressed by the title of that book.
What? You don't like the title? What would you call it then?
Possibly something a bit more poetic?
There's been a theory for a long time that Sam is actually the author of the books. In a sense, of course, George is the actual author, and he is retelling the story. Sam chiming in with a more poetic title may be A Song of Ice and Fire. Is this more proof that that theory might be correct, or are the showrunners just playing with us? Number 5. Lady Night. This is perhaps one of my favorite callbacks of the episode. So when Arya goes to the inn and meets up with Hot Pie again, Hot Pie does a callback to a previous season with how he knows someone is a knight.
Did you meet the big lady?
Big lady.
The lady knight? Yeah, I figured she was a knight because she had armor on.
How'd you know he was a knight?
Well, because he's got armor on.
Number 6. Queen of Ashes. This episode, we hear Tyrion tell Daenerys that she doesn't want to be Queen of the Ashes.
But you're not here to be Queen of the Ashes.
This is actually in reference to a few other scenes that have happened in previous seasons, including one where Varys is talking to the Queen of Thorns about Littlefinger.
But he would see this country burn if he could be King of the Ashes.
So right there, Tyrion is echoing Varys' words. If Dany really wanted to be the Queen of Ashes, Varys wouldn't follow her. But this could also be in reference to Daenerys' vision in the House of the Undying. Yeah, it looks like snow in the destroyed throne room, but it could also be interpreted as ashes, a warning to not go that route. Of course, the throne room looks completely different from that vision anymore, but oh well. Number 7. Does Grey Worm have a... This question has actually been asked so many times, I made a video about it. Grey Worm's penis has been brought up so much in the show that I've actually lost count how many times someone has referenced it, including a deleted scene where Dario talks about stepping in for Grey Worm.
It'd be difficult working through that one. Listen, we're friends. The time comes and you need someone to give her what you can't. She can close her eyes and think of you.
This sex scene finally answered our question, and other characters that didn't seem to think Grey Worm could pleasure Missandei. Nope, he clearly doesn't have a penis when you slow down the scene, and yes, he can still please her. Thanks for answering that question, D&D. Number 8. The Mad King. This episode, Sansa talked about what happened to their grandfather, and for some reason leaving out their uncle, because of the Mad King.
Have you forgotten what happened to our grandfather? The Mad King invited him to King's Landing and roasted him alive.
After the Mad King's son Rhaegar took Lyanna Stark, Brandon Stark, heir of Winterfell and Ned's older brother, went to King's Landing demanding to fight Rhaegar and for his sister to be given back. The Mad King took this as a threat on the Crown Prince's life and held him and the party he came with captive, summoning their fathers to answer for them. When Lord Rickard Stark, Brandon and Ned's father, got to King's Landing, along with the other fathers, they were all, for the most part, put to death, except Rickard Stark, who demanded a trial by combat, which the Mad King agreed to, and then chose fire as his champion. Rickard was burned in his own armor, while Brandon was placed in a strangle device from Tyrosh with a long sword just out of reach. He strangled himself to death, while his father burned alive. So this is a pretty important reference for Sansa to make. Hey, this person is the daughter of the person that killed our grandfather and uncle. Come on, Jon. What makes this scene even more fun is that the Mad King is actually technically Jon's grandfather too. And then we have all the people saying you can't trust a Targaryen, which Jon is half Targaryen, so yikes. Number 9, throat hug. For those of us that aren't Littlefinger fans, Jon's throat hug of him this episode was just simply splendid. But it looks like Jon learned how to choke Littlefinger properly through someone else. The parallels of their choke slams are just beautiful. Of course, now Littlefinger realizes, just like Ned, Jon has to go. And finally, number 10, Azor Ahai. So when Melisandre comes to Dragonstone to talk with Dany, she speaks in High Valyrian and talks about the prophecy. Dany repeats what she says, but in common tongue, saying prince that was promised. But Missandei corrects her, letting her know it is gender neutral, so it could be prince or princess that was promised. This is a reference to Feast of Crows when Maester Aemon admits just that. He told Sam, "What fools we were who thought ourselves so wise. The error crept in from the translation. Dragons are neither male nor female. Barth saw the truth of that. But now one, now the other, as changeable as flame. The language misled us all for 1,000 years. Daenerys is the one, born amidst salt and smoke. The dragons prove it." Which is way more exciting because it opens up for male and females to be part of the 3 heads of a dragon, and we all have our own favorites for who those 3 will be. So that is my list of 10 Easter eggs, references, or callbacks, but there were actually a ton more this episode, so write in the comment section below which one was your favorite, especially if I didn't mention it in this list. Thanks for watching, please like the video, subscribe, and come back for more videos.